Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to have you with me today and to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Maija-Lisa Adams, and she is a TEDx and TED Talk expert. And I'm excited to just talk with her today, let her share with you some of the reasons why you might want to consider working with Maija-Lisa for a TEDx talk. So first of all, Maija-Lisa, tell me, how in the world did you get to this position where you're doing this wonderful coaching for TEDx and TED speaking?
Well, it's so good to be with you, BJ, and thanks for that question because it's not something that you just think of doing. There isn't a position, oh, I'm going to be a TEDx speaker coach. I really fell into it very organically. I actually spent most of my career early on in California in the Silicon Valley doing presentations, but then we moved to Utah and I became a stay-at-home mom. And as my youngest was well into school, my neighbor who worked at the local university said, I know you used to give presentations. Would you come teach a public speaking class for me? And so that's how it started, by me teaching public speaking. The second piece is my hometown here and the neighboring town both started hosting TEDx events. And I said, I want to go to a TEDx event. And so I went, and when they saw that who I was and what I did, they said, oh, you teach speech? Would you coach our speakers? Because some of them really could have used some help. They have these great ideas, but they have a hard time articulating it, or they put too much other things in there. And so I have been helping local stages for a while now doing that. But then it's expanded even more, especially during the pandemic. People had already been asking me individually to coach them, but now it's a very concerted effort, a niche for those people anywhere in the world, whether that's in the UK or in Australia or Germany or here somewhere or in Canada, to say, would you help me find a stage and help me clarify my idea? Because the truth is, BJ, is that if there are 100 people who apply to a TEDx event and they're going to have 10 speakers, that means 90% will not be chosen. So just like getting a job, how do you get noticed in a way that they lean forward and say, oh, I want to know more about what is this flock that BJ's talking about?
Okay, that sounds really fascinating and obviously a skill set, nothing that most of us would just know right off the bat. But what's the number one benefit for someone actually doing a talk?
I think the one that I hear is most common is that once you have done one, regardless of whether you did it for 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, or even more, is you can put TEDx speaker in your bio. So when you go to LinkedIn, it might be the first thing someone sees. When you go to Clubhouse, it's the first thing there. When you submit to be a speaker and it comes down to you and another speaker, this is the one I hear repeatedly from my speakers is, I got the nod because I'm a TEDx. Oh, you've given a TEDx talk? Wow. Okay, come and speak for us. But there's so much power in giving a TED talk. One of my favorite ones to tell is here locally. I was at the farmer's market with my late husband, and this gregarious couple struck up a conversation. And as soon as he got home, there was a ping for an invite to be a Facebook friend. And then there was this, oh my word, message that said, I know why we connected. I've wanted to give a TEDx talk, and here's someone right in my community that does that. Will you help me with that? And I did. And the power for her was she gained so much confidence. She was a grandma at this point and had not finished her bachelor's degree. And I'm so proud of her because just a year ago, she finished 4 years of university and is a college graduate now as a grandma. I love that so much. But then there are other people who have other opportunities. One person who I helped and who I coached and helped her find the stage and helped her with her talk and with her views, she didn't even speak about her business or the expertise she had in business. She spoke about a situation in their family of mental health and how they went through that and told people right up front about their daughter's mental health issue and the idea that they got by listening to doctors and therapists and so forth that helped not just their daughter, but anyone else who also has it to be successful. There's power in a TED talk. I get emotional about it because it's just like, if you have something that you might even think isn't maybe that big of a deal, but it has helped you and you've been able to do it repeatedly and it helps others, and there's a little bit of science or data behind it, then you need to share it. It's your obligation to share that, because TED is about what is that one thing that you have to add to the conversation this year in your area of expertise in some arena. So an example of what TED says is, we have an epidemic of we have an opioid crisis right now. And so you can't solve the entire opioid addiction crisis, but based on your profession or your experience, you can get up as a family member, someone who's recovered from it, someone who's lost someone from it, as a nurse, as a doctor, as a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever in that, and add a piece to it around a whole conversation. And that's why you can hear other people talk about the same topic, but they talk about it they come and give the talk that only they can give from their life's experience and what they have to add. And that's what's so important, is just to stop and think, what is something that I know, even something that people thank you for that you might think, I didn't know that was that big of a deal. I kind of do it effortlessly. Then share that formula, share that process, share that why it's so important with us on the stage.
Nice. Now there's a couple different TEDx or TED Talks or TED Speaks. There's a variety of venues. Can you just speak to that just a little bit so that we get more clarity on what's available and maybe kind of the parameters around each one?
I'd be happy to. So a TED Talk, that's just TED, happens only once a year, and it happens in April, and it now happens in Vancouver, BC. It used to be in California. It started clear back in 1984. So that is the big red dot. That's where the Bill Gates of the world and Steve Jobs of the world, he was one of the first TED speakers of all times, and so forth, speak. And as that grew in popularity, then people said, could we do a TED event in our town, in our metropolitan area, for example? So TED started giving licenses very limitedly. And in 2015, when I started working with TED events, there were 300 licenses given in 1 year around the world. They could be anywhere. It could be India. It could be Italy. It could be Idaho. It didn't matter. And, but there were only 300 of them. But now when we come last year, there were 3,300 TEDx events held. And you're only given, so when you see a TEDx, the X means you've gotten a license from TED, and in your hometown or in your university or even at your business, you are given a license to hold an event. And the difference in a TEDx event and a TED event is, a TED event is 4 days long, 3 sessions a day, about 8 speakers in each session, and everybody in that one session talks about one thing, like artificial intelligence, because TED stands for technology, entertainment, and design. That's the original formula of people who got together once a year on the conference that continues to this day. Now you can talk just about anything, as long as there's support and science and or some sort of data behind it. And so giving a TEDx is likely going to be done at a university or in a city, and it's more of a variety show. So they'll have an artificial intelligence speaker, someone from business, someone from science, someone from art, someone from music, etc. And they put together who they want. And they're not all created equal. There are some that have been doing it for 15 years, some that this is their very first year doing it, some that did it for 5 years and don't do it anymore, and some that do it, and then just an hour away, there might be another one close by that does it. And it just depends on, is there a group of people in that community or university or business who really are the thought changers, the thought leaders, the change makers, the brainstormers who are thinking kind of on the cutting edge and say, our community has these problems. We want to find some experts that can come and talk about those problems in our community. Maybe it's something about homelessness. It doesn't matter, but it's up to the community to decide, not the community, but the organizers who choose to do it in their community. They'll choose those speakers. So you need to get in the head of the organizer if you want to get on a TEDx stage and think what's important to them at this venue versus that venue.
Okay, excellent. And I'm guessing that you have access to all of that information. So you have access to the head of the organizers, as far as maybe thinking they're...
Actually, all of us have access to, if you want to know any TEDx event that's happening this year, you can do it very easily. Okay. Now, where I come in is helping you know how to word it and things that to get into the mind of that organizer and know what's important to them. Because I've sat down and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of these applications and know what works and what doesn't, why someone was chosen, why they weren't chosen. Would you like me to share where someone can find out where a TEDx stage is?
That would be awesome. They'll still need you.
And this is free for anybody to go look at. So you go to TED.com, to that website, and then you click on TEDx event, and there are they have a list of every event that's happening, so that if you're saying, hey, I want to go to a TEDx event just to see it, that's the way the list is created. But you just use that list to your advantage and say, well, where's it happening about 6 months from now in my city or my state or my region or places that I have a connection to, and then go see when when they have their application open. And there are 3 ways to get on the TEDx stage, which we can talk about as well.
Okay.
So anyway, go to TEDx.com and go to TEDx, and then click on those TEDx events. And it'll bring up a map of the world, and there'll be blue dots all over that show where they're happening. And like right now, today we could go there, and there'll probably be 6, 7, 8, or even 9 events happening. As we get to the weekend, there's usually more events like that happening around the world. But that means that's happening today. The speakers are chosen, the tickets are been sold, and it's happening. So scroll about 6 months out. So we're in May as we're recording this. So start looking for October, November events in your area. That's how you do it.
Thank you. What excellent advice.
You're welcome.
So when we work together, so I'm going to do a TEDx talk. I need coaching because I want to make sure I don't miss important things or ramble on too much or not get chosen.
Yes.
What can you do with me to make sure that I am delivering valuable content that everybody's going to understand and engage with, or as many people as possible? Tell me what you can do with me.
Yeah. So we would engage in a weekly coaching where we start first with your idea. It's all about your idea, even before you look for a stage. It's all about your idea and helping to get the noise out of that. I mean, this is your life's work. So I help you kind of, bring it down to one sentence, your life's work that gets their attention. And then another paragraph about how you describe that or more things they'd want to know about it. And so I lead you through a lot of exercises, and you do writing, and then you see it as a rough draft, and then I make edits and you make edits back and forth. And we really get solid on the idea first. And then we start looking for stages and comparing stages. Okay, this is what this stage is asking for. This is what this one's asking for. Because the number one reason you don't get chosen, besides just your number, is you didn't answer the question the way that particular organizer asked it. And sometimes they'll ask you 3 things in one question, and you only answer one of them. And so if they get a sheer volume of 100 or more, they're volunteers. They work full-time jobs. So someone scanning through those 100, 200, 300, 400 resumes, so to speak, or speaker applications is a lot of work. So you want to make it easy for them to lean into you. I don't know how much you know about graphic design, but the concept of putting white space around it, like you have a lot of nice white space there on your book cover. So you want it to stand out, like that question, are you my flock? And then be able to tell more about what that means. So anyway, we would work together with that, getting your idea, workshop that, finding some stages for you to apply for where you're a good fit, and then going through the process of outlining your TEDx talk and talking about how you rock that talk, and then also how you can get some more views. So that's what we do in coaching.
Yeah, so that's great. Once we pick something, a topic, and we fine tune it, and I'm hoping that you practice with us, right? Practice with me. So
Yep.
Get to see if I'm, staying on task and making good contact. After that, if we don't get chosen for the first stage that we apply to, how do you help me make sure that I make the very most of the work that you and I have put into creating this talk?
Sometimes someone doesn't get on a stage, but what they do get out of the stage is the fact that they were able to clarify their life's work. They're able to clarify their message, and it helps them so much more in their marketing and in their sales. But the ones who get on the stage are the ones that are they have a good idea. You always have to have that. And then we've workshopped it and cleaned it up, put that white space around it, and then you're really coachable and that you go through those steps. So some people will apply to one stage, and just because of timing, like they do it and it's right when it's closing, and it rises to the top and they get chosen. And others, it takes some time for it to happen. But those that are coachable and will go through it, they're the ones that actually get on the stage. And we have a really great rate of that happening for them. So it's clarity that's going to come regardless. And wouldn't it be just enough even to get really clear on what your purpose and your one idea is that you want to share? Some people will go through applying to maybe 60 stages. That's pretty extreme on the other end. But even applying to a dozen, almost always you're going to get chosen within that. If you're applying to the right stages, that's teaching you what to look for.
Right.
And how to answer the question.
Excellent. And what do you love most about this niche market that you are in?
Well, first, I love how much I learned because I'm exposed to great ideas every single day. And that started by just being a public speaking teacher at the University of Brigham Young University, Idaho. And as they would do informative speeches and persuasive speeches, I'm like, I continue to learn all the time. But then a TEDx talk is so different than that. It's just taking one idea. You have 18 minutes or less. In fact, most stages will only give you 10 minutes now. And you'd think that would be hard to do. It does take more time to do a 5-minute talk than it does a 50-minute or a 45-minute keynote, or to give a lecture, or to even to do an interview like this. You have to be so clear and focused on, it's more about what to take out and what to keep in. And it's all has to revolve around one idea. You know, I've gone back to New York where they do coaching for people who organize TEDx events. And there's 500 organizers from all over the world that get to go once a year. And when I went, they share a video or they have a live speaker from the TED organization who watches those talks and says, this talk was so inspirational, it was so motivational, but there was no idea in it. They didn't actually tell us. So therefore what? Why are you telling us this? How does this impact our life? What is our takeaway? What do you want us to do? So whether you are a research scientist like Brené Brown, who studied guilt and shame for 10 years and tell wonderful stories and tell us there's power in vulnerability, so lean into it, or you're someone whose daughter has severe OCD and you have an idea called Starve the Monster that you want to share, and you tell a story and you tell about how you came up with the idea, and you have 1 million views from that. It doesn't matter, but you have to wrap an idea around it.
Okay. And you can help us do that, right?
Yeah. You have to have an idea to start with, but then I can help you match what you put with it. Yeah, absolutely. So BJ, you have an idea. You've come up with the Are You My Flock, right? And there are many different personality tests out there. And so it's not about you selling your book or selling your services of coaching. It's about, why is this so important that we understand where we fit in, where our flock is, or our tribe, or so forth, and how you came up with the idea. People want to know how you come up with things. And you can even come up, what I work with you on is finding that one sentence that can almost be said out of context. So here are some examples that you might be familiar with from TED. So Simon Sinek, the short version of his sentence is start with why. And if you watch his talk, he told 3 stories. And at the end of each story, he said, because people don't care what you do or how you do it, they care why you do it. So start with why. And that's his. So people don't care what you do or how you do it, or they don't buy because of what you do or how you do it. They buy because of why you do it. And then, so I've talked about Brené Brown, the power of vulnerability, but then there's Amy Cuddy, who talks about body language. And even in her title, she gives us a hint into her idea, which is your body language may shape who you are. So I think, oh, I might be better in my clientele, in my marriage, with my children, interacting with people, if I do have a better posture, or I'm more confident and work with those things. So almost out of context, I don't even have to listen to her talk. I get the idea and say, okay, mom was right. Change your posture, right? Or Simon Sinek, start with why. I don't even have to hear the whole talk. I get the idea that I should start with why.
That is fascinating. That is awesome and so right on. So right on. That is so cool. All right. And so time frame, when someone's going to work with you to prepare for a TEDx talk, or TED, if they were ever fortunate enough to do TED Talk, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
What's the time frame that you work with someone typically?
Yeah, typically I have a private client and I work with them for a full 6 months and we go through everything, including the talk and the views and so forth. Those that work in a group, the first section of the group for 8 weeks is just about the idea and landing the stage and outlining the talk. And then they might do another 4 to 8 weeks, depending upon whether they want to continue with actually coaching on the talk and so forth or getting help with the views. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And it takes a while to develop something
Yeah.
effective.
It does take
That's
some
exciting.
time. Yeah. Just part of it is I can't underscore getting that one idea and not putting everything in it, and then really practicing it and preparing and thinking about the very end in mind, that you yes want that moment to stand in the middle of the red dot that the TED Stage has made famous, but you also want people to find you on the TEDx channel of YouTube that now has over 37 million viewers or subscribers. When I went back to TED Fest in New York in 2018, they were given a prize by YouTube because they had 10 million viewers at that time. Now their subscribers are 37 million. So there's a great potential there. But that also means there are a lot of TEDx talks going out there. So again, not just the idea, but the talk itself has to stand out. And then you have to say, there's no magic formula for the viral. There are a lot of things you can do to get that. But you're not just thinking about this audience of 100 to 600 that are going to watch me on the red circle. You're also wanting to think about the audience around the world that could possibly see you as well.
Beautiful. What an incredible opportunity to make a difference.
Yes.
And I think most of us want to make a difference, in our life and in what we bring to our business and our daily life. So this has been awesome and exciting.
And I think especially entrepreneurs, authors and coaches and consultants and service providers who've really thought about things. And, even being a direct marketer, you can't get on and sell your product, but you can certainly bring an idea from that or about that type of sales or something like that. Here are the things to avoid. Don't sell your business, don't sell your religion, don't sell your politics, and don't sell your woo-woo. They want you to be giving freely this idea, and they want it to be based not just on a one-off experience, but that it's been repeated, that there's, oh, this actually works. There's a formula behind it. And then to give that idea to people.
Fabulous. This has been really fun and insightful. And I am so grateful to have you on and to be able to share you with everybody. If you have ever wanted to be a speaker, you wanted to be in front of more than just your little tribe, you want to take your idea and feel like you can make a difference in the world, this is your opportunity to fine-tune that idea, work with Maija-Lisa to really make it powerful and have the opportunity to be a TEDx speaker. So thank you, Maija-Lisa, so much for our time together. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. And I would be happy to help with that, because the other thing that I take away from it is I love seeing people succeed and get that clarity on their idea and get that message out there.
Wonderful.
And at the very minimum, I would love for you to join my free Facebook group. And BJ's kind enough to provide a link for that, where you can find out and see people that are getting on the stage or stages that might be open or tips on how you can have a better TEDx talk. I would love for you to join that.
Well, thanks again. And we will look forward to always keeping in touch.